There it goes. It says it's being recorded now.
Yep, I clicked on that.
Oh, and I also got a answer for the question that we were asked yesterday about the Oracle report conversion. There's actually a process for that. We can use the BI Publisher PL SQL options and support. If you contact support, they have a document that outlines that process. So if you're interested in, if any of the users are interested in converting those Oracle Standard or custom reports into RWB, there's apparently a document that you can get with support to obtain that'll walk you through that process.
Sure, that's good. Maybe we can see if we have some time left, and if you want to cover, or maybe I'll see if that should be IT specific process or something. Then
Yes.
We need to see. Yep. All right. I guess Katya, I guess I don't see you now. You all are there in a room.
Yeah, so if you see Thomas on the attendees, and I think you can see him, then you know that everyone else is able to see the screen. So we have around 10 people here in the room.
I see DRS FA team on the web.
Right.
Okay. So are you able to see the screen, the Oracle login screen from Kiran's screen?
Yes.
Okay. I guess we should get started. Let me know if we should wait for a longer time. I guess it's already 7 minutes past 10, so we can get started, I guess. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So Rick, floor is yours. Let's get started.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Rick. I'm with Polaris Associates. We'll be doing the end user training today. So I'm just going to give you guys a basic overview of what I'm covering today, and then if any questions come up in the middle, we'll certainly address those. But just to give you an idea of where we're going, I'll be talking about the basic overview of the solution as far as the navigation. We're going to run a couple of reports and see all of the output types that are available. We'll touch on Excel Publisher, which is the piece that allows us to extract data into Excel while maintaining the EBS security. We'll be looking at some BI Publisher examples as well as document bursting and how to set up the delivery channels. We'll also talk about copying reports to take ownership of them, and also creating reports from scratch and how to manipulate those. I'll touch briefly on modifying data objects. That's more of a super user function, but just to give you an idea sort of how the whole system works, we'll touch on that as well. And then we'll round it out with a look at dashboards and how to consume reports in dashboard form. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start with the demo. We'll log in to EBS. And the first thing I'll point out to you is that Reporting Workbench exists as two custom responsibilities here, Reporting Workbench Administrator and Reporting Workbench User. Today we'll be spending almost all of our time, or pretty much all of our time, in Reporting Workbench User. So when we expand this out, we'll see the My Reports and Preferences options. My Reports, where you're going to go to access the tool. So what you're seeing here is the solution. This is Reporting Workbench. The landing page for Reporting Workbench. So I'm going to take you around the navigation of this tool, and then, like I said, we'll dive into some of these output types. So off to the left is your organizational structure. You have a
Sorry, can I shortly interrupt you, please?
Yeah, go for it.
Will you share some training material with us before everyone is taking notes?
You mean like the training guide? I believe, Ashish, do you have that?
Yes, yes. So yes, I'll be sharing the training material, and I'm trying to record this video, this training as well. So hopefully I can record it very well. But yes, we have a detailed training material. I can publish that after this call. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. So as far as the navigation goes, the left-hand side has the report folders, and you can expand any one of these folders out to see the content beneath. And the EBS responsibilities trickle down into the tools. So as a user, you won't have this whole list necessarily. You'll have the reports that are shared to you or applied to your responsibility. Now, just to point out a couple of the differences with the folders, if you look at the icons carefully, you'll notice that there's this type of icon here on the working folder and then this type of icon here. The seeded folders have this type of folder icon here, whereas the user folders have this type here, and that just makes it a little easier for you to organize them to suit your needs. So you can drag and drop between these folders. So if you have something in a working folder, you can click on this organize checkbox here and then just simply drag that report down into the user folder of your choice. So this is pretty much your starting point for running reports. This is where you'll see all of the content that comes with the solution. Off to the right here, let me refresh this so you can see what it looks like when you first log in. Off to the right here, you have a list of favorite reports. So you can, as a user, this is done at the user level, so you can manage your own favorite reports in this section here. There's an organize tab that allows you to move folders or reports from the available reports list into the favorites reports list. And you'll see this kind of set up a few times throughout the tool. We use this a lot. So to move things from one box to the other, you can simply double click on it, or you can use the move buttons to move and remove so that you can basically build a list of your favorite reports. And like I said, this type of interface, you'll see that a few times, so that's pretty consistent throughout the solution. The main navigation of the tool is these tabs up at the top. So you have reports, dashboards, and requests. And beneath each tab is a tab-specific menu. So for reports, we have these options available to us here. Under dashboards, there's a menu there for that, and then requests as well. So basically, this allows you two-click access to pretty much everything in the solution. And we'll be going through all of these options here as well as we continue. So I'm going to flip over to the dashboards tab and show you what that looks like. So this is a list of the dashboards that are configured within the solution. I just want to give you a quick look at this because we will be touching on this a little bit later. But you basically have the dashboard name, description, owner, run, share, edit, delete, and you can also include these as Oracle functions to be attached elsewhere in the system, and then the context that are required for that. So we'll dig through each of these options here in a little bit, but I just want to give you an overview of that. So in the requests tab, there's two basic ways to run a report in this solution. There's true ad hoc reporting. You can run that report now. That's run in memory and gives you the content or the data immediately, or you can submit it and run it through the concurrent manager, and that's also where sharing sort of ties in, and we'll touch on sharing a little bit later as well. But when you submit a report, it shows up in this requests tab here, and each report gets its own line. A lot of tools use sort of this setup here, and so you have the request ID, the report name, whether it's running, finished, completed, whatever its status is, the date, and then these are the various output types that are available for each report. And again, I'll show you where these are set up when we get into running the report. But it basically drops an icon under each of these report output types when they're selected, to allow you to consume each report in a multitude of different ways. So you can see we have Smart Grid, HTML, HTML Pivot, Excel, all the way on down the line to PDF. So that is, and you also have a spot to consume Oracle requests here as well, so you can get to Oracle requests within the same requests tab. So that's basic overview of it. The next thing we'll do is we'll run a few output types, and I'm going to stay with one report for this most of this demo, just to show you so the data is consistent, and this particular report is set up with all of the features, so this will give you a really good idea of how you of what you can do. So when you choose a report, you'll notice it prompts for a responsibility context. These trickle down from EBS, so it's impossible to run a report without the appropriate, or it's impossible to consume data without having that responsibility assigned to you. So basically, it maintains EBS security in that respect. So what I'm going to do here is select a responsibility context and choose Go. And this next page here, this is the main landing page for each report. This is a parameters page, basically. So you have The report details, you have the report name available to you here and a description, and in this case it generates the invoice summary to see detailed invoice and payment information regarding invoices. Each seated report has its own description to help you understand a little bit better about what that report does. Beneath that, you have parameters. These are user configurable, and when we get into the editing and creating section of this training, I'll show you where these are configured. So try to remember basically what we're looking at here. We have operating unit, invoice number, invoice start, and end date, and we've got a couple of values defaulted in here. And that'll make a little bit more sense how this is configured a little later on when we get into that. But this basically just allows you as a user to filter the data that is returned by operating unit, by invoice number, and to limit it by date parameters here. Now beneath that are the two output types that, or I'm sorry, the two consumption methods that you can use. There's, like I mentioned, there's run now, and then there's schedule and submit. Running now, we just simply click on this view output button and we will see the data presented to us in one of these 5 formats here. And just to pop this open real quick to give you an overview of this, we'll touch on each of the individual components of this scheduler here in just a few minutes. But just to give you a quick look at it so you can kind of see where we're going with this, these are all of the options that you have available to you as far as scheduling and submitting the reports. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at these various output types. I'll show you how to use them and give you some ideas of what you can do with them. So we'll start with tabular. So we'll just simply click on tabular and choose view output. And you can see it's a basic flat tabular output. This output type is really designed just to give you a quick look at the data. This doesn't do a whole lot of analytics. You can do some basic sorting, but this is just a sort of a flat way of consuming the data in the simplest way possible. You'll notice here too there are blue links on the invoice number. These represent drill downs, and when we get into editing the reports, I'll show you how these are configured and how you can take advantage of them. But basically, if you click on any one of those, it's going to drill into a different report. In this case, we're drilling from invoice summary into the invoice register. And then we've also got the invoice register report set up with a drill down, so you can see that we can do multiple drill downs into the AP supplier listing to give you the lowest level of detail that's available for this. So you can basically chase your question down when you have your report set up in this way. So a few options up at the top. You can export to Excel using this button here. It just takes that tabular data and generates an Excel workbook. I'll actually show you an example of this once we get into the smart grid output type because it's a little bit more flexible in that output type. You can use BI Publisher templates with this and generate PDF, RTF, XML, Excel, or XML output types just by clicking on the View button there and generate that. View SQL and close, pretty straightforward. You can see the query that was run when the report kicked off, and then close is going to close the window. And these are your sorting options here. Three basic sorting options that you can sort using the different columns that are available to you. So pretty straightforward on the tabular output type. So now we'll dive over into the smart grid output type. I will spend a little bit more time on here because smart grid is an analytics tool as well, so you can do a lot of cool stuff with it. You'll notice when we first open it up, it looks very similar to what we just saw. It's as the tabular output. The drill downs again are maintained, so you can get into those lower levels of detail. The difference with smart grid is it pops open a new tab, makes it a little bit easier to sort of arrange and bounce back and forth between the drill 2 reports. Now up along the top you have the ability to search here. You can again export using a BI Publisher template. And these icons along the top right here, I'll take you through each one of these just to give you a description of what they do, and then I'll show you how to construct a basic analysis with this smart grid tool. So you have the ability to auto-size columns here. That's just going to pack or expand the data out to allow you to read everything. You can refresh the data with a single click. So if you're trying to keep an eye on something that's moving quickly, you can fetch live data with that button right there rather than backing out and rerunning the report. The parameters, this shows you the parameters that were applied when the report was run. Now when you're doing an ad hoc report run, you pretty well know what was applied because you just applied it and hit the button. But if this were a submitted report, for example, this is a useful thing to be able to go back and see which parameters were applied when the report was run so that you know that you're looking at the right data, that no operating units have been excluded, that the invoice number hasn't, has the range that you're looking for. and so forth. So this just allows you to see the parameters that were applied without having to dig too deep. The next three icons, these are the preferences icons. We have a preference icon, a save preferences, and a remove preferences icon. I'm actually going to come back to these last because this is where you're going to construct your analysis. This is what allows you to format this data in a more meaningful way. So the next two icons are column filter related. So we have clear column filters and remove column filters. You'll notice that each column has a little filter icon on it that you can click, and it's data type specific, so it makes it pretty easy. It detects that there's a date here, detects that there's an amount here, and that there is a string here. So these icons here allow you to clear those filters if they've been applied, or remove them altogether if you so choose. Next two options here, you can export to XML and export to Excel. I'll actually click this button a little in just a few minutes when we construct an analysis to show you how it brings the data out into Excel. Just to give you a heads up, this is a WYSIWYG export, so it's a what you see is what you get. So the way that you construct your analysis is the way that it's going to come out into Excel. Again, you can see the SQL that was generated when the report was run. This is useful for debugging, and users probably won't use this. You can take the solution full screen to maximize your screen real estate there, and you have the help options as well as a way to close the window. So with all that gone over, let's take a look at the preferences options in here. So the preferences, you'll notice right away you have a list basically of all of the columns that are available to you, and this solution supports grouping and data aggregation as well as data formatting as well. So I'll show you how all that's set up. So let's ask a basic question. Let's say I wanted to see my invoice amount by supplier. So I have a bunch of suppliers here, and I have a bunch of invoices, and I want to see by supplier what is my total invoice amount for each supplier. So I can simply drag my supplier column up to the top, and I can choose enable grouping here. And I'll go ahead and click on OK just so that we can do this one step at a time, and you can see exactly my information and now I can expand any one of these suppliers details that are beneath it, and then also the drill downs are maintained there. But let's take this a step further and ask and answer that question about the invoice amount. So let's say we want to take our invoice amount, move that up underneath supplier there, and then over here we have aggregation options. So we have subtotal and grand total positions that we can play with. So we can ask it to give us a sum, an average, a count, a min, or a max. So in this case I want a sum, but let's say you were asking the question of, show me by manager the average, or by department, for example, the average salary. You could construct a similar analysis with this tool here. So in this example I'm going to use sum, but obviously you could use those other options as well. And you'll see it goes to work, and it gives us a subtotal position of the total invoice amount for each supplier, and then down at the bottom we've asked it to do that grand totaling there so we can see the total amount right here. So you can see as an end user, this quickly allows you to go through and sort of group and aggregate your data to answer questions that you're looking for. So SmartGrid is a very powerful analytic tool for that purpose, and it's a little different than a pivot in that it allows you to manipulate this data in tabular format in a way that's pretty dynamic, if you ask me. So a few other options in the preferences pane. Let's just go over some of the formatting. You have filtering options here, and you also have formatting options here. So we've already got this one configured to look like dollars. So we have a thousandth separator, a decimal place of precision of 2, a currency symbol, a position for that currency symbol. So you can manipulate the formatting to look the way that you need it to look. So negative sign rounding is off there in this case. So those are options there as well. So now that we've created a basic analysis, let's go ahead and export that into Excel just to see what that looks like. So I'm deliberately clicking, opening up a few of these suppliers just to show you how it looks. And then we're going to go over here and click on this Excel, export to Excel button. And you can see it goes to work, and it gives me an Excel document that I can then open up. And this is going to be, again, a what you see is what you get type of export or extract. So if we look here, the way we've constructed our analysis in here, the suppliers that are opened up for details are opened up in the Excel sheet, and the ones that are not are not in the Excel sheet as well. So you can go in and use SmartGrid to do all of your formatting and then extract that into Excel and then work in this environment or share it or do whatever it is that you see fit. So that is a basic overview. Any questions on SmartGrid at this point? Nothing heard. So the next output type we'll take a look at is the Pivot Online output type. This is a fully web-based pivoting tool. So this doesn't require any client-side installation to use. So let's go ahead and construct a similar analysis to what we just did, so I can show you some of these features that are within Pivot Online. So what I want to do is take my supplier and drop that into the rows section, and I want to see a sum of the invoice amount right here. So let's go ahead and click on Update. So you can see it gives me a similar analysis to what we just constructed. You don't have the ability to expand each one of these suppliers necessarily the way you can in SmartGrid, but you do have this ability here, which is useful for summarizing or charting data, which I'll show you next. So to show the chart types, I'm going to click on this filter option here under supplier and show you some of these options. So you can remove certain, in this case, suppliers. You can filter this information. You can sort it. And in this case, I'm going to do a top 10 analysis on it just to sort of limit my data for charting purposes. So I'm going to limit that to the top 10 using the sum of the invoice amount as a value. So you can see it goes ahead and does that for me. Now, right now, we're in grid view. And when you're in grid view, you can choose an individual cell and use the Format Cells icon here to handle your formatting. So in this example, we can plug in a thousandth separator, decimal separator, places of precision, currency symbol if we choose, and so forth. So that allows you to do your formatting there. Now let's take this into a chart. I'll show you the different chart types. We have bar, cylinder, line, scatter, pie, and bar stack. So just for example purposes, we'll take this into a pie chart. So you can see here now we have our suppliers represented by total invoice amount. It's our top 10, so we can visualize this data in this way. And then from here we can export this chart if you so choose. You can print it, bring it into HTML, CSV, Excel, or image or PDF. Image or PDF seem to be the most popular chart export just because it makes it really easy to include in the email or a PowerPoint or something of that nature. So these are the export options here. Format cells we went over, that is the grid view feature. Layout options, grand total, subtotal positions can be configured in the layout options. There are also style options as far as colors go. Fields and layout is the icon that we used to actually create our pivot here. So that is available, and then export and zoom. So let's take this analysis just a step further and drag our invoice date over here into the column section so I can show you what the bar stack looks like. Bar stack gives you color codes by date there. We've got the supplier along the bottom and the sum of the invoice amount on the left there. And if we bump back over to our grid view, you can see that it's applied that value in the pivot chart or table there as well. So it's a quick, easy to use tool. We've gone through all the icons here, so you can get in there and play with this tool. It again doesn't require any client-side installation. It's all web-based, so you can go in and construct your pivot analysis directly in here. Any questions on Pivot Online at this point? Right. So the next thing we'll look at are the two Excel output types. These are basic data extracts. Now, don't confuse these because we're going to be going over in just a minute with Excel Publisher. These are markedly different than Excel Publisher, and you'll see why I think when we get into Excel Publisher. These are basic data extracts. So when we click on View Output with the Excel type selected, it's going to take my tabular data and just give me an Excel workbook with that data in it. Notice there are no drill downs maintained here. This is just a straight data extract, and that does contrast to the Excel Publisher where the drill downs will be maintained and there's actually an add-in. So I just want to start now when we're talking about Excel defining the differences between Excel Publisher and the other Excel extract types. So that's the Excel output type. The next one is Pivot Excel, and this one's pretty handy because it generates a workbook in the Excel pivot format. And it goes ahead and gives you your column values as pivot table fields in the Excel environment. And I won't go through and explain to you how to pivot within Excel, but you can see that you can quickly take these bits of information and construct a similar analysis to what we were looking at very quickly. So that's there's a benefit there if you prefer working in the Excel environment to extract this data immediately and begin working in that familiar Excel environment. So it just kind of depends on your personal preference. So those are the 5 run now output types. The next thing we'll take a look at is the schedule and submit options. So in here, let's just go through each one of these pieces here so you can get an idea for what they do. You have start and end dates. These are basically effective through dates. So when you schedule recurrent, say to repeat every day, for example, you can start that now, end it in a week, and it will automatically stop recurring at the end of this date range here. You have a simple and an advanced recurrent scheduler. The simple one is just that. It's very simple. You can choose to repeat every 1 day, hour, minutes, or month. And you can also define the interval from the completion of the prior run or from the start of the prior run. Now, if you need more flexibility with scheduling, the advanced scheduler allows for that. So you have 3 basic sections within the advanced scheduler. You have months, dates, and days. And you can combine checkboxes from all 3 of these categories to achieve the desired level of recurrence. So just as a quick example, let's say every month on the 1st and the 15th you wanted a specific report to run, or to say on every month on the first Monday, for example, you wanted a report to run. You can combine these checkboxes to achieve that level, and I haven't found a combination yet that doesn't work. So you should be able to utilize this to achieve the appropriate level of recurrence. Down beneath here, you have the option to increment date parameters. This is useful for if you, for example, have a report that you want to run on every Monday. Or let's just say every Monday, and you wanted that report to capture the previous Monday through Friday's data. Incrementing these date parameters will make sure that every time this report kicks off in the recurrent scheduler, the date parameters are incremented by that recurrence interval. So basically, if it's kicking off every 7 days, it's going to increment the start and end dates by 7 days to guarantee that you're always grabbing that correct window of data. Top left here, you have template names available to you. These will, I think, make a little bit more sense as we get into the BI Publisher piece of it. I'll show you BI Publisher and document bursting, and we use templates in there, so that'll make a little bit more sense. But a template's basically a way of formatting the data when it's run. Output formats, as we saw in our requests tab earlier, I showed you the icons that appear when that report is requested. This is where you select which icons show up, basically. So you can choose HTML and SmartGrid, HTML Pivot, CSV, XML, BIXL, PDF, or RTF, and those appropriate icons will show up after the report has been processed. Also have printer options here. If you have a printer connected to the system and you want to use that, you can automatically have reports run to a printer. We find retail clients use this probably the most for cycle counts, inventory, things like that. So clicking on the submit button is going to submit that report. I'm just going to refresh this to make sure nothing timed out on me. And we'll go ahead and submit this report so you can see what that looks like. You'll get this confirmation that the report has been submitted successfully and a request ID for tracking purposes. And now when we go over to our requests tab, you'll see it's actually already completed, but this is the report that we just requested, and as you can see, the icons for the output types that were selected show up directly here. So that is the schedule and submit options for running a report. So we've basically seen everything as far as just basic running of a report in this screen here. The next thing we'll take a look at is one of the BI Publisher examples that I have for you, as well as the document bursting. We'll take a look at how to configure those delivery channels. So for a BI Publisher example, I have an employee verification letter that we have set up. And so let's go ahead and click on that and again choose our correct context. And we already have the name Alex Smith defaulted in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and view output to show you what is generated. Now setting these up may be a lofty task for an end user. A BI Publisher can get pretty complicated, but I'll show you how the tool can give you a generic template to get you started with, and then you can begin to craft documents like this. So you can see basically that the BI Publisher template that it's using has inputted the employee's name with the start date, the role, and the salary here. So we've taken a basic template. Let me show you what that looks like. This is the employee verification letter here. So we've started with a generic template, and we've crafted this custom template that has the fields from the data sets in them, and then those are what gets filled in when we use this. So reason I'm showing you this up front is so that maybe it'll make a little bit more sense when we get into actually creating templates. But I just wanted to give you a use case example for that. Next report we'll take a look at regarding document bursting also uses a template. That's a missing employee information report. So just to sort of explain document bursting, what we're doing with this report here is we're going through each row of data. Let me go ahead and open up the raw data. I'll show you what's in there. And we're distributing a request for an employee to fill out missing information. Now this doesn't have to be an HR related task. This can be, say, account managers that need to reconcile something. It just depends on your use case. I'm just giving you this as an example. So in this case, we have a name available to us and we have an email address available to us within the data set. We're going to take advantage of that so that we can use this bursting capability effectively. And all I've done here is gone into the records and manually modified the email address to reflect my own, so I can show you the result when it comes in. So when we schedule and submit with a report that has a delivery channel configured for it, that delivery channel will show up down here in the schedule and submit options. So what we've got here is an each employee one email plan, and we will crack this open and I'll show you exactly how this is configured. And we also choose a template here, which is the missing employee information template. To give you an idea of what that looks like, I have that available here. So we're going to get something like this in our email, where we have taken a generic template and we've generated it with Reporting Workbench, and then we've gone in and we've just formatted it with some static data here, some formatting, and then some contact information down here. So again, I'll show you what the generic template looks like, and that'll kind of give you an idea of where you can go with these things. So let's go ahead and kick this report off. We'll submit this. Again, we'll get that confirmation that the report has been submitted successfully. And we can go back over here and we can track its progress. We can see that it's in pending status. So we can just keep refreshing that until it's done. And what this will do is it'll kick off 2 emails to me, because it's actually going to slice that information up. So we had 2 records in there. So what it'll do is generate, using this template, an email for each of those rows. So let's go in and actually look at that delivery channel and how it's set up. So with a report, to get into the details, I can simply just right-click on the report and choose Details. And then I have some options that are available to me. And also, just to give you an idea of where we're going here, when you own the report, you have a lot more options available to you. I'm not the owner here. We'll cover that, how to take ownership of reports, here in just a second. But let's go ahead and click on Delivery Channel. So these are the delivery plans that are available to us. This is the one that we were using. It's the only one that's enabled. This is where you can disable or enable delivery plans. You can actually set up multiple delivery plans for each report to break up the data as you need to. So let's go ahead and edit this. I'll show you how this is set up. The delivery plan name, that's arbitrary. You can just name it whatever you'd like, give it a description, and then these are the delivery types that are available. And we find that by far and away most people are using email as a delivery type, but we do see FTP and occasionally print, fax, and publish as well. So in this example, we're using email. Now, delivery distributed by, if we go in here, let me show you all of the options. Basically, you have the ability to distribute by each row of data or by specific columns that are in there. So for example, if you had say a supervisor column in there that had you could distribute by supervisor, and then that individual supervisor would only get the records that are applicable to them. So these are the availability here, and you also have wildcards. So when you use %sign in our tool, that's basically like it's similar to what you see in Oracle. So you can search for everything just using a %sign. Or you can, you can format it like that as well. So in this example, we're distributing by each row of data. So we're asking the tool to go in and look at each row of data, and we're going in and we're choosing the email address from that data set. We're using our missing employee information template, which is what I showed you over here. So we've attached this template to the report and said to the tool, hey, I want you to use this template here. Our output type in this example is PDF. I will show you an example of how to use the Excel output type as well, which is also very popular because you don't need to use templates, or you can use the generic template with the Excel output type. You also have HTML, RTF, and text available to you. You can specify a name if you'd like. The to field, you have, again, the ability to use database items in there. So in this example, we're telling it that we want to use the email address column. So you can see that we have an email address column here. So we're telling the tool to distribute by each row, and we're telling it to pull the email address from this email address column. So it's going to know that we want to slice up the information by each row and then deliver to the email address that is found on that row of data. So you can do hard carbon copies or blind carbon copies here. Again, you can distribute using columns as well. Subject and body, this is how you can sign the information. So for example, we had a question come up last night about how does the person receiving the email know who it's from. When you set up your delivery channels, you can simply address it here or put your signature in the body so that you can communicate that information as well. You can also add conditions down here. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but basically the conditions allow you to, instead of using and clauses, you can use or clauses as well, and it just follows this formatting right here. Advanced settings, this is just to show you that they exist. This is more IT related, so this is what's actually generated the control file and the XSL file for the delivery plan. So if you wanted to get advanced, you could involve IT staff to go in and customize these things to give you a little bit more power. But we find pretty across the board that just the basic setup suits probably the majority of the needs that are out there. So this is basically how a delivery plan is set up, and we'll now that we've overviewed it, we'll sort of look at that in a little more detail with a different report. And these are the two emails that have been generated for those two records. So you can see I get two separate emails, and if we open this up, see there's the one for Rhonda, and if we open this one up, this is the one for Rachel. That they both come to my email address. So it's used the template, it's plugged in the appropriate information, and asked the employee the question that it was designed to ask. You can pop in your own company logo here to make it more personalized. So those are just two BI Publisher examples and a document bursting example there as well. Any questions on delivery channels? I am going to sort of flesh this idea out a little bit later as we get into copying reports. But at this point, are there any questions?
So, Rick, again, Ashish here. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So for team here in Global Foundries, just would like to just give a relevant example for this. For example, if you want to share cost center GL account analysis report, by cost center to individual cost center owners, right? So you want to slice the data, but you have a query which basically knows that the cost centers and their relevant information. So this report can be sliced individually by cost center, and we can send an email to individual cost center owners using this channel by just simply submitting the GL account analysis report one time. So all you just need to do, let's say you want to send an email to all the cost centers selectively, or you want to send a global, or you want to send it to a specific set of cost centers. All you have to just do using this delivery channel feature is just run this report one time, select right parameters, and submit it. This delivery channel basically will be pre-configured. So on the to email address, what you are seeing there, we can add the email address of the cost center owners, which we can store somewhere in the mapping database, or if we have this information already somewhere, we can pull that information. And on the left side, the delivery distributed by channel, we can choose as the cost center. So what the report will do, the delivery channel will do is, it will slice the data as per that cost center and send it to the person who is the owner of that cost center according to our mapping. So this is what basically we can look for similar functionalities in other areas where you want to send, sliced data and burst it to multiple people in some way. Yeah. Thanks, Rick. You may go ahead. Yep.
Okay, very good. Yeah, excellent example. Yeah, that's one of many. There's a lot of power behind the bursting features here. So the next thing we'll take a look at is the concept of report ownership and how to take ownership of a report and edit it. Because as a user, you're going to have access to some seeded content, and we find that what we deliver usually get you all the way there for most cases, but in some cases you may only get your 90% there. So I'm going to show you how to take an existing report, take ownership of it, and then modify it, which is the same process as creating a report from scratch. So I'll go through both of those just to give you an idea of how that works. So with AP invoice summary, we'll go back to this one. So if we right-click on this, we see we only have two options here with details and delete from favorites. If we go to details, you can see the owner is XX4X, and in this example, I've logged in as XXDemoX, so this is not my username. So under the details of the report, just while we're here, I'll show you what is contained within them. So you'll notice we've got a limited number of options up here. Help run copy templates in Excel Publisher. And then beneath that we have the responsibility context, the default output context or output types that are available, and you see that I can't really change much of that. We have the data object and columns that are available, the report parameters that are configured, any LOVs that are used, any defaulted values that are used. Down here we have the conditions that are applied and how they are configured, as well as any templates or drill downs that are attached. So in this case, we do have one drill down attached. It's the one we looked at earlier. So let's say I want to take this report, make it my own, and copy it. So the first thing that we do is we just click on this copy button here, and we can give this a new report name and a new description. So say I wanted to, I won't give this a completely different name. I'm just going to give it the same name and I'll just add my name so I can find it easy. But let's say you wanted to change this report around to serve a different function. You can give it a new name here and a new description here as well. So we'll click on copy and we'll get again a confirmation that the report has been copied, and if we refresh our tree now, the working folder is where all of your new reports that are created will show up. So this is what I just copied. Here's the AP invoice summary -Rick, and now I can use this organize checkbox to drag this report into the user folder that I would like to contain it within. So let's talk about folders for a second while we're on this topic. Over here on the Organize Reports option is where we can manage our folders. So if I click on that, you can see this is the example user folder that I already have created. I have options to delete it, and I can see the reports that are contained within it. So I've already dragged the copied report into that, but you can also use this search box here to get the other reports or any other reports that you may want to add to it. And again, you have this similar interface that we've seen a few times now as far as the available reports and the selected reports list. So that's how you organize the report. So let's go back and actually modify this report. So when I right-click on it now that I'm the owner of it, I have details, edit, delete, rename, and add to favorites. So I have a few additional options available to me. Now if I go to the details, I can see that I am in fact the owner of this report. So now I have a lot more options available to me. So I have help, run, edit, copy, share, templates, drill downs, Excel Publisher, delivery channels, and Excel macros, and create function over there. So let's go ahead and edit this report. Everything else should look the same. Now I've also noticed that I have copied this with the HRMS context. So I'm actually going to change that to a payables context because I think that's more appropriate. So there we've changed our responsibility context. So let's go ahead and click this edit button here. and see what we have available to us. So the first thing I'll point out is we have columns, parameters, and conditions along the top. So this is a basic three-step wizard to get you through the report editing or creation process. And again, creating a report looks similar to this. I just wanted to show you one that's already created so you kind of get an idea of where you're going to be going with this stuff. So you have the business areas available to you here and the data objects that the report was built on. And as a user, if you want to go in and add columns to this report, you can do that by simply clicking on the column that you're looking for. So let's say I want my invoice ID down at the bottom and my vendor ID. I can just add the columns that easily. Over on the right here, we have an enabled checkbox. So if you want to remove columns from showing up when the report is run, you can do that directly here. Or if you want to delete them altogether, you can select the report from the left, or the column from the left side, and choose delete column there. Another option you have available to you is calculation columns. You can add a calculation column to put in a custom column that is based on the columns that are available in the report. So let me go ahead and get rid of that. Now let's dive into some of the options that you have. So earlier we did an analysis where we asked for the sum of the invoice amount. So let's open up our invoice amount column and see what our options are available. We can actually make that change permanent in the report if we choose, rather than using SmartGrid for it. And that'll make the report change for everybody that it's shared to or that is running it. So aggregate functions, here you have the average of, count of, maximum, sum of. So we were doing sum of earlier. We have sorting options here to sort by ascending or descending, the column order there. Column formatting, you have the decimal places of precision, thousand separator, and currency symbol. And then over here you have options for the pivot definitions, and this is specific to Pivot Online. So we saw the Pivot Online output type. Here you can define whether this column is a column field, data field, page field, or row field, and then apply the pivot function that you want it on there as well. Give it a display name, define order, or whether it is a summary or not. So this is the basic way that you're going to select the columns in the report. So you give it a name, you give it a description, and you choose from the data objects that are available to you, and click those over. So when we click on next here, we're going to be taken to the parameters section. Now if you remember when we ran this report earlier, we had parameters available to us on that report run screen for operating unit, invoice number, invoice start date, and invoice end date. So this is where those are defined. So as a user, if you want to go in and take a report, take ownership of the report by copying it, and then go in to the parameter section and either add a parameter, default some values, remove a parameter, or what have you, you can do that directly here. So we have, let's just go through each of these options. I'll show you what they do. So we can open up our details here, and we can define whether something is a constant or a SQL statement. So for example, in our invoice end dates, we have a constant defaulted value set up here, but if we wanted to use a SQL statement to generate our date, we could type that in here directly there if we'd like to. We'll leave that as a constant though. So let's pack those back up. So you also have the type of data that you're dealing with, so you can see our dates are dates. We also have numbers and strings, just depending on what's appropriate. And then the LOV name that is supported or that is selected here as far as the options that are available to you. So this is one of ours. AP operating unit. We also have AP invoice numbers here, so we can select our invoice numbers from that LOV and our operating unit from this LOV. Down this side of the parameter screen, we have whether the parameter is required or not. And this is useful if running the report without defined parameters would fetch a large amount of data and take forever to run and eat resources. You can require a specific parameter be used just to force the limitation of data. So it's just a best practice if you're dealing with a report that's going to fetch a lot of data. Whether that report parameter is enabled or not, whether it allows multiple values or not. So in this example, we've checked this multiple values option, and we can input for operating unit multiple operating units. We can also hide this parameter. So let's say we wanted to default some, we wanted to enable this parameter, but we don't want the user or the person running the report to be able to maybe manipulate that. So if we only wanted to capture, say for example, a specific date range, we could default our dates here and then hide that parameter there. So that allows, so that whenever this report runs, it's going to just fetch data for that specific date range. Or you could do the same with operating unit or invoice number, so you could make a report that's specific to an invoice number, for example, by defaulting a value. Just a couple of examples there. When you're going through the process, clicking on the Create Condition checkbox will automatically create a condition for you, which we'll take a look now. So when we click Next, we go to the Conditions section of the report creation, and you'll notice, oh, I'm sorry, we are not in the condition. Let's see. Needs to be constant. So let's click Next. So now we are in the conditions screen. So with that Create Conditions checkbox checked, we'll get these 4 spots to work with, and $A, $B, $C, $D, these are just how these are defined. And that's more useful when you get into the advanced section. I'll just give you a peek at that, although I don't know that most people will ever use the advanced section. Column name. This is where you define how your parameters behave. So for example, invoice date, this is the column name that we're looking at to filter that data. And we're giving it an operator and a parameter type or an argument type and a value. So the value here, this is our invoice end date and our invoice start date. And those are selectable as well. You can use the search features here to help you along with that. So we want our invoice end date. So basically we have two, we're using the same column for both of these. One's the end date, one's the start date, so we're choosing a different operator for that. So for example, the date supplied needs to be less than or equal to the value end date here, and then this one we've used greater than or equal to, and that's how we can capture that window of data there using these parameters. And you have several operators that are available to you. If I can get one of these to open up. Internet Explorer not behaving. Looks like my computer has caught a flutter.
Like the browser got hanged.
Yeah. Any questions while we're waiting on my machine to catch up here? Let's see. Oops. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the operators that are available to you, not equals to, less than or equal to, equals to, you can see them all right there. So you have these available to you. So in the operating unit ID, for example, we're using the operator in because we're wanting it to match that. We also have equals to because we have a number there. We want the invoice ID to match the invoice number that we've typed in. So this is where you go in and you define your columns, parameters, and conditions. So again, it's just that that 3-step wizard here: columns, parameters, and conditions. So let's take a brief look at how to start to create a report from scratch. So we've seen the My Reports tab, Import Reports tab, or if you are moving reports between instances. I won't cover that. It's pretty straightforward. You can just export and import reports using that option there. It's very self-explanatory. Organize Reports is where we, again, I'm just sort of recapping here up to this point, where we manage our folders, our user folders, and then that brings us to the Create Report option here. So you have a few different options here. So BI Publisher Reports, if you'd like to create some reports like the Missing Employee Information Report or the Employee Verification Report that we saw earlier, those are BI Publisher Reports. You'll need a little additional information or knowledge on BI Publisher to be able to use this option here. And then there's also PL SQL reports there where you can get into some pretty complex logic. But most of the time you'll be creating an ad hoc report. So let's go ahead and click Create. Now we can see we're back to this same three-step wizard that we just saw, and you have your business areas here, and then the data objects that are available to you within there. So let me change my context to payables just to keep it static. Yeah, so here's all my AP. So this was an AP invoice summary. So this is where we were getting all of our columns for this report that we've been playing with today. But you can see these are all of the data objects that are defined for AP. So you can go into these and you can pick columns from any one of these that are available to you, and begin building your report here. And basically next through the wizard, defining parameters and conditions as you see fit, and then saving and beginning to use that report. So the next thing we'll take a look at is let's go back to this report details. So that's the edit process. So you copy the report, you edit the report. Now you can share that report. So as a user, you can go in and take a report that you've created, and you can share it to others using responsibility level or user level. In this example, I'll use the user level. They're both pretty much the same thing. So you can click on New and search for and define the username that you would like to share to, and then you have a few different share levels here. So share report will allow that user to use your report and run it for their own purposes. Share the output shares your output. So every time you run this report, it's sharing that output to this user that you've defined here. So when you submit this report, for example, if it's shared to A. Allen, in A. Allen's request tab, he'll get the report name or the report output types available for it. And then you can also share both the report and the output, so they have the ability to run the report and consume the output that you have run. And sharing at the responsibility level is the exact same interface, so you search for the responsibility that you'd like to share to, and then define the share level directly here. So that is report sharing. Next thing we'll take a look at is the template options. So templates, this one's already got that template applied, and we saw earlier, this is where you would apply, say for example, in this missing employee, or rather the employee verification letter. I actually don't own that report, so I'm not going to be able, I don't think, to get in. Yes, templates. So this is where that employee verification template here is attached, and this one is the one that looks like this. So we've just attached that template there. Now you can also generate default templates. So let me get back to my report that I own, go into templates, and let me just delete this template so you can see what this looks like. So we're going to generate a default template, and let me open this so you can see what it looks like. So this is the default template that the solution gives you. It's not terribly pretty, but it gives you a starting point, and it goes ahead and drops in your various columns of data. So now you can go into this template using Word, remove the columns that you don't want to be shown, take out these wildcards. You can give it a name, you can drop in your logo, you can put in some static text as we did before. So as we saw in the missing employee information, we just started with a default template to get these fields out into an RTF. And then we've gone through and we've just we've given it the look and feel that we want. We've dropped our logo in here, so you can take this default template and quickly and easily using Word manipulate it and make it look the way that you want it. And then that's what will actually get burst out or generated when you run this report. So we've got a new default template in there. So let's go back here and I'll show you. We'll just go down the list here and touch on each of these icons here so you know all of the options that you have available to you for each report. So drill downs are configured here. In a copied report, drill downs don't come over because you may or may not have the other reports available. But if we look at the seeded version of this report, actually let me log out because I need to log in as the owner of that report to show you this. Let me log back in as XX4X, and we're going to go into the drill downs here, and I'll show you how these are configured. So this is our drill down that is configured. So we're drilling down into the invoice register, and this is the column on which we're drilling down. And let's go ahead and edit this so you can see. So when you create a new drill down, this is how you do it. So there's a few different options. You can drill down into an RWB report, a link populated from a data object column, or a link populated from a database function or a static link. By and large, most of your drill downs that you're going to configure are going to be into another report. This is where you choose the drill down, the report you're drilling into. This is in this case, if you recall, our drill downs took us from AP invoice summary to AP invoice register. So this is the report that we're going to, and then this is where the column is defined that we want the links to basically show up on. So we want to be able to click on our invoice number, and again, you can go in and search for any column that you want to configure a drill down on. So we want to click on our invoice number and wind up in this AP invoice register report. And down here is where we pass those parameters from the parent report to the drill down report. So in this case, what we've done is we've passed all of our parameters: the vendor name, the invoice start date and end date, and the invoice number. And so basically we go through and we define what kind of parameter is it. Is it a constant? Is a base report parameter or a base report column? In this case, the vendor name is a base report column. We're passing the parameter value of vendor ID. And then for the invoice start and end dates, those are base report parameters defined by invoice start and invoice end date as is defined within the report. So if you remember when we went in and edited the report and we configured our parameters, these are the values that we configured there. So these are the values that we need to pass into the drill down report. So the invoice number, same deal, base report column, and we're passing the invoice ID. So basically when we click on our invoice number now, it's going to open up the AP invoice register report and automatically pass these columns to it. Any questions on drill downs at this point? Okay. All right, so let me log out and back in as my demo user. Go into my reports and my example folder. Okay, so to configure drill downs from scratch, you just simply choose new drill down, and then we're back on this same page here. So where we can define our AP or our reports that we're drilling down into. And I'm not going to go through and configure all of this just for the sake of time, but just to show you what it looks like when it's populated and show you what it looks like when you start it, and sort of how you can go through and configure these things. All right, so Excel Publisher, we'll touch on this briefly right now, and then we'll go into the Excel Publisher option here next. So the Excel Publisher option, when we click on that within the details of the report, it's going to automatically generate a workbook for us and put that report into its own tab. Now, you'll notice there's no data here. There's actually a Polaris add-in that rides in with an Excel Publisher output type. And I'm actually going to show that to you in just a second. This is how we get the data in, but I want to show you that this functionality within the Excel Publisher interface itself. So we're going to close this for now, but we will come back to this, and I'll explain that in a little bit more detail. Delivery channels we've already seen. This is where you configure your new delivery plan, so you can go in, as we mentioned, and configure all of this for the delivery channel. Excel macros is a nice feature to use. So with an Excel macro, you can create an Excel macro in Excel. So when you have your data, say extracted in Excel, and you want to go in and create some formatting, so you want to bold some things, add some color to it, rearrange stuff, add custom calculation columns, that kind of thing. You can record all of that in Excel as a macro, and then you can take that macro text and you can paste that here. And so what that's going to do is it'll actually attach that macro to the Excel output type, so that when you run that report in Excel, you'll have that macro available to you, so you can simply run that macro and achieve the formatting that you're looking for. So this is a really nice way to not have to reformat the report in Excel every single time. So say you wanted to extract the information in Excel, change it around a little bit, do an Excel analysis, and then email it out manually for some reason. You can do all of your formatting in Excel, take that macro text, paste it here, and then apply it to every single time apply it every single time this report is run. It's just as simple as pasting that macro text in. Creating a function allows you to create a function that can then be attached to an Oracle menu. I don't think you'll use this a whole lot, but it is available if you would like to use it. Okay, so that covers basically all of our report manipulation options here. So you can see we've gone through everything and shown you sort of how to take ownership of a report by copying it, edit it, create a new one, share it, use the templates and drill downs, etc. So the next thing I want to cover, let's go ahead and round out the concept of Excel Publisher. So when we, and then I'll come back and we'll briefly touch on modified data objects here, and then we'll dive into dashboards, and that should round out the training for today. So let's go through Excel Publisher. So what Excel Publisher does, and it's different from the Excel extract that we've seen so far, in that it maintains EBS security. And I'll show you how that works with that Polaris add-in. So we have a similar interface to what we've seen a few times already. We have available reports and selected reports, and we can go ahead and search for the report we're looking for here. So we can see we have the seeded report and the one that I've copied, so I'm going to take that one. Just simply double-clicking again or using those icons, and then let's get, I'm just going to show the functionality, grab 2 more at random. So now what I've done is I've selected 3 reports for Excel Publishing. Clicking on the Publish option here is going to generate that Excel workbook, and you'll notice each of those 3 reports gets its own tab within Excel. So here we have our invoice summary. So in order to get the data for this report, this is where it's different from the other Excel output type, and don't let it confuse you if you export this and you don't have any data. This is how you refresh the data. This add-in up here, if you go to add-ins and Polaris RWB add-in and choose download, what it's going to do is prompt you for an EBS login directly within Excel. So from here you can log in and it'll skip over everything to the point of selecting the responsibility context. So you go straight into being able to select the context. So this is pretty cool because you can go into Excel or RWB and as a one-time effort export several reports to Excel Publisher or using Excel Publisher, and then save that locally or in the cloud or on your hard drive or email it or whatever you want to do with it, and still be able to maintain this EBS security. So when we go to refresh this data, it's going to ask us for our responsibility context, and then we click on next, and then we get a similar screen to what we've seen now a couple of times, where we can see the requests that have been made. We can refresh that requests list. We have the parameters that are available to us, so the same ones, operating unit, invoice number, start and end date, and then our 2 running options here, so our run now and submit. So if I submit this, it's going to drop it into the concurrent manager and show up here, and then when it's processed, I can use the download icon that'll show up right here to consume that data. In this example, I'm just going to run it now to show you what it does. Right now it's running a background query, and there you can see that it has fetched all of this data for me. And I'm actually noticing that I never configured my drill downs with that, so I'm actually going to go back and get rid of this and add the seeded report. Oops. And add the seeded report that was there. So let's republish this. All right, so this report should have the drill downs maintained. So again, go to add-ins, go to Polaris, go to download. We're going to log in. It never hurts to see things twice anyway. We're going to choose our context, and we're going to run that report. So it's just that quick to update. So now in it, and then again you can chase down to the lowest level of detail there. In with Excel Publisher. Excel Publisher then the basic Excel output types, and I again want us to because they both have their purpose. Excel is pretty much the most popular calculator out there. So you can do a lot of custom calculations with it. In this example, I'm just going to take this example here, and I'm going to use invoice remaining, and I'll do a quick calculation. That's J3 minus K3, and then drag that down. So now I have an invoice amount remaining there, an invoice dollar amount remaining. And the important thing here is these columns here survive data refreshes. So when we go back into this add-in and rerun this report, you'll see it fetches the information, but my calculation column remains there. So you can use Excel Publisher to bring out multiple reports worth of data, do your own custom calculations, refresh it, and basically work entirely in the Excel environment without ever needing to log in to EBS. Again, this is a one-time effort to create these types of workbooks. And we find a lot of people use this for like month-end close reconciliation. We have several reports that you're constantly running to sort of chase down outstanding things and run custom calculations and so forth. I'm sure you can already think of some examples that you may be able to use this for. So that is Excel Publisher. Let's see, last thing to touch on before we get into dashboards is modifying data objects. Now this is a super user function, so I don't know how many of those super users are on the call here, but this will also help just the users understand sort of where this data is coming from. So let's go back over to our report that we've been using and go look at the details, and you'll see for each column we have a data object that's defined for that column. So I got here just by, again, right-clicking on that report and going to details. We've seen this screen a few times, but I want to point out this is the data object that's being used. So let's copy that and go up to Modify Data Object, and we'll go ahead and paste that in. And as soon as we tab out of that, you can see that we get all of the dependent objects that make up this data object. So we can see we're using AP invoices all, AP suppliers, AP terms, GL daily conversion types, PA projects all. So this is basically the result of a SQL query that's tying all of this information together. And if we expand these out, we can see the columns that are available to the users to build these reports. So if you have a super user in the department, or if you are a super user, what you can do is if there's columns that are missing or that you're looking for, you can actually go in as a super user and add columns that were not previously available for you to use, and you can go through each one of these. And now IT staff will maintain the views that are generated in the data objects, I'm sure, but this allows the super users just a little bit more control over their report columns that are available. So you can go through, again, each one of these and enable or disable them as you need to. Again, probably not an end user feature for most, but definitely a super user and a developer feature available to you there. So let's recap, make sure we've gone through everything. We've touched on everything as far as the reports go. We've gone through the import reports. Let's see, actually we haven't touched on that. I will show you that real quick. So this is the import option. So when you go over to a folder, right, like our example user folder, and you click on the folder itself, you can export these reports. And what that does is it asks you want to export the drill reports also, you can do that. And it generates a .ro file for report object. And then once you have that created, you can go over and you can import that .ro file. You can search for it in your file structure and import it there. I know you guys aren't using Discover, but if you use Discover, you could import that as well. So very straightforward process. We got a little bit of extra time, so I wanted to show that to you. So organize reports we've seen. That's where you go, and I'll just recap all of this. This is where you go to create your folders and organize the reports within those folders. Creating the report we've taken a look at as well. That's where you're going to go to make a new report. Modifying data objects, we just took a look at. Excel Publishers, where you can extract, again, using that EBS security model into Excel. And the Oracle Reports tab, if you have any Oracle reports in there and you have a context that can run them, there they are. You can submit them to Core Forms or submit them as a self-service URL. You know, we're obviously trying to replace the Oracle reports here, so you know these are there really just sort of as a crutch or legacy support, but they are available for you there as well. So okay, so last thing to sort of touch on is going to be dashboards. Any questions at this point? I'll go ahead and just take a pause here for a second to see if there's any questions. All right, nothing heard. All right, so dashboards. Dashboards are visual representations of reports. So let's, in this case, I'm going to show you this HR employee analysis dashboard just because that shows all the features of the dashboard off. And again, you can sort of make parallels in your own mind about how to use this best in your situation. So you have the dashboard name, the description, the owner, and then you have a few icons here: run, share, edit, delete, function. And if your responsibility context is not selected to reflect the available context for it, you won't get a run icon. So that's why I just changed my responsibility context to HRMS manager there so that I could run this dashboard. You also have sharing options here. These are similar to or exactly the same actually as sharing a report. You have edit options. We'll dive into this in just a second to show you how these are configured, delete, and then include as an Oracle function. So let's just go ahead and run this dashboard. I'll show you what they look like, and then I'll show you how they're configured. So what you're seeing here, you have 3 tabs up at the top. These are configurable when you build the dashboard. And then within this first tab, you basically have 6 reports being represented graphically. So and these can be moved around. You can expand them to see a little bit more, a little bit easier, and drill downs are maintained. So if the drill down's configured in the report itself, it'll be maintained in the dashboard as well. So when I click on any piece of this pie here, I've got grade change of employees summary. I can click on that and see exactly the details that make up that 22%. And again, we've got a few formatting options here. You can set the column width automatically. You can export this to Excel. You can use your filters. You can minimize and restore. And then, of course, you can go back to the graphical representation. So this gives you a really quick, easy way to identify meaningful metrics within your organization. And you can also change, of course, the visualization types here. And then there are parameters that are applied up here. So notice this is a date parameter that you can filter by so that you can capture the correct window. Remember this because I'll show you where this is, where you can configure the parameters, because you can apply parameters to the dashboards as well or pass them to the report. So second tab here is an example of tabular output type with drill downs being maintained. So you can again click on these and get down into the lower levels of detail. Our same export and formatting options are available. And on this last example, we've got just a basic pie chart taking up the whole screen, and again with drill downs being maintained. So in this pie, what we're looking at is HR absences by type. So we can click on sick time, see who was sick, when they were sick, for how long they were sick, etc. And you know, in an HR world, that's relevant. If you're in the financial world, it may not be, but you can see exactly how you can use these charts to your advantage. So with this, now that you've seen a dashboard, you've seen it in action. So let me show you now how to configure this to take advantage of it. So you can to create a new dashboard, you just simply click on New Dashboard here. I'll show you what that looks like first, and then I'll show you how that last dashboard was configured. So what your basic process is going to be: fill out your dashboard name and description. You ask for, it's going to require a name here. You can create new dashboard tabs right here. So in that example, we had 3 dashboard tabs, and actually didn't want that one. Let's delete that one. And then down here we add our reports to the dashboard. So this is where we can search for our reports and choose whichever report we feel is required. It'll give us a title, and then we can choose our report type or report consumption type here. So if we wanted a pie chart, for example, we could do that. We can define category value and label columns. I'll show you what that looks like already configured, but you do have selectable options for that as well, for the category, the value, and the label. And then sequence can be defined here. I believe you can also leave the sequence blank if you want it to just format it how it feels. Parameter mapping, you have shared parameters here. Let's see, what's it complaining about? Row 4 tab name. There is no row 4. Okay. All right, we'll just let it complain about that. So the shared parameters are what's going to pass to that dashboard. So now that we've sort of seen a blank slate here, let's go back into that dashboard that we're already familiar with. Looks like, there it goes. Let's edit this one, and I'll show you how this is set up. So you can see this one's already configured for us, so we can easily see how it's set up. So we have the dashboard name, the description. Our shared parameters in this case are dates. You saw we had at the top of that dashboard, so date from and date to. Parameter type again is date. It's a constant date, or you can use that C. This should look familiar from the report creation. And then we've defaulted some values in there just to automatically limit our data. And we've got these enabled and not required. So this is where you configure your shared parameters. The dashboard tabs, these are the 3 tabs that were set up. So we have the assignment changes, the salary details, and the absence details. And then when you click on this radial button here, let's see. Am I still sharing my screen? Ashish, are you still there?
Yeah, I have shared again the privilege to you.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
There we go. All right. Okay, so with the tabs, when you click on this radial button here, it's going to show you the reports that are contained within that. So let's just go ahead and click on a couple more. So you can see under the second here, employee salary details, we just have this one report. Under the absence details, we have this one report, but on that first tab, we have these 6 reports here. So these are set up. These are the report names that we've configured. These are the titles and the report types that are configured. So you can see one's a line, one's a bar, one's a pie, 2 are columns, the last one's a line. And then our category column, this is this one's for job name, our value columns for employee count, our label columns for job name. So you go through and you just configure these the way that you want them to look. I mean, each case is going to be slightly different. You can kind of play with them, go back and forth and see what they look like. And then parameter mapping. If you click on a report, you get your parameter mapping options down here, and this is going to pass the parameters that you have defined in the dashboard to the report when it runs. So this just maps those parameters across from dashboard to report, basically, or report to dashboard, and allows you to utilize the parameter names there. So that is dashboarding in a nutshell there, and that really rounds out everything that I've got as far as the user training goes. Just to sort of recap, we've taken a look at the structure, the navigation, how to get around the tool, how to copy reports, how to take ownership of the reports, and we've looked at a multitude of different output types that I hope you'll find useful, including the Excel Publisher and the Smart Grid output types, dashboarding, requests, and security. So are there any questions at this point for me? All righty, nothing hurts. I'll hand it back over to you, Ashish. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rick. Team in Germany office, do you have any questions? Katya, Thomas, anybody has any questions right now? So one action item is to send all the training materials, user guides that we already have, which I'll be doing after this call, and I'll send it across to everybody. All right,
Thank
then. Yeah. Sorry.
Very good. Ashish, I do have one question. You recorded this, right?
Yes, I have recorded that. Let me see how good the quality is. And
okay. Yeah, I was going to request a copy of that if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, we'll do that.
Very good. So no additional questions. If you think of any questions, you can obviously throw them into the support queue for technical assistance, or if you just have sort of a basic question about how to use the tool or maybe like a best practice, you can certainly email me or touch base with one of the team members here, and we'll get you directed in the right way.
Okay. So thanks, Rick, again. Thank you, team. If you have any questions, as Rick says, feel free to drop a note to him or to me, and we'll be happy to reply you. On the next action now, where do we go from here? How do we utilize this training? For what purpose? Just wait for further communications on that. We will be doing some alignment calls on these with Yana, Loy, Gopal, and myself. And we will be identifying if there is something we need to do in near future, the power users, and releasing certain key accesses for them. But that's something that we need to make a call on. But definitely we can release a test environment for playing around for you. And just drop a note to me in case you are looking for more access in test environment, and we'll be able to release that to you. Yep. So that concludes, I guess. If no questions, then we can conclude this call. Thank you very much, Rick, and thank you, team, for joining this call.
It's my pleasure, Ashish. Thank you for having us. I do appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.